Mike in San Jose with us here on Willard and Dibs with JD in 95.7 The Game. Hey, Mike, what are you doing?
What's up, fellas? Enjoying the show, everyday listener.
Thank you.
Listening for years. Always like when JD is on also. Different perspective.
Yep,
Mike.
Yeah.
The commentary.
We've had a great week, man.
JD said something the other day that kind of resonated with me, but I was at work and couldn't call. So I'm 66 years old. I've been going to Giants games since my first autograph was Willie Mays when I was 7.
Damn.
So love the Giants, been around the Giants, taking the kids to spring training, everything. I find myself so angry at the direction of the Giants and Gabe Kapler that when I watch the game tonight, I hope they lose. Because I don't know how they leave Kapler and Farhan unless they have a historic meltdown. Now, it pains me to say that, but I hope they lose 12-0 tonight because I cannot stand after 5 years where they're at in the rebuild, not 2 or 3 years. It's going to take them 8 or 9 years to do a rebuild that will last 3 years. Kapler just reminds me, this is just me personally, of just a bully. He would have never done that to Susan Slusser or John Shea. He does it to the youngest guy in the room.
That's an interesting thought.
He just wants to act like the smartest guy, and it makes me sick. Farhan, I don't believe acts that way because he is the smartest guy in the room. But he at least has a personality. I don't see him as a motivator of the players whatsoever. They bring these kids up that hit right-hander and left-handers their whole life, and then when they get here, they're not allowed to do it. Why a free agent would want to come here and devalue themselves for their future earnings, I have no idea. Sorry for the rant. It's just really
Mike, it's a really good one, and stay on because I have some follow-up questions, if you will. There's actually some data when you say, like, why would a free agent come here? I'll just give you one example. His name's Kevin Gausman. I know you're talking about hitters, but I do think there is, Darren Ruff. Darren Ruff that's a great example. Even Connor Joe. There are people who have had runs and contracts in Major League Baseball because Farhan saw something that they could do that the majors did not see that they could do. Some of them have made a little bit of money. Some of them have made a ton of money. But let's focus on Kapler because that's more of a Farhan thing. I'm interested because you said two different things. The whole being rubbed the wrong way thing, as I've stated all week long, I totally get. But when you said this is a rebuild that is in year 5 and going horribly and is going to take 3 or 4 more years, I'd love to hear more about your perspective on that when I just submit to you two things, which is A, the farm system is so much markedly better than when these two guys took over, number one. And number two, how do you feel about a rebuild that also includes, in that 5-year stretch, a division championship, which is usually kind of the antithesis of a rebuild?
Well, I would say in the answer to the last part, you had Posey, you had guys that were still great players. Now they're nearing the end.
That's fair.
But you still had some superstars on the team. And my answer to the rebuild is I don't think it would be an easy thing to argue that in the next 2 or 3 years, this team does not challenge the Dodgers. This team challenges wild cards. Okay, so I believe with a lot of the young talent, which good for them for playing them. It's the only reason we've gone to any games is because you want to see the young guys. Okay, but I believe they produce 240 to 250 hitters. I don't believe they produce 310 to 320 hitters. And I believe we're always going to be in that as long as we just platoon every player, and every player knows in a key situation there's a chance he'll be hit for. Or, we kind of skipped over the pitching because Farhan is very good at plucking the guys, like you said. No doubt about that. But, the opener, bulk guy, they're like when the Warriors decided we were going to win young and old in the same season. And everybody commented it's never been done before. Well, there's a reason it's never been done before, because it don't work.
Yeah, Mike, you've got some like you're very, very Mike. You're a good fan, man. You know what you're talking about. What I'm missing from you is the vitriol, though. If you're so angry that you want the team to lose, like you can paint the picture that you just painted, and I get it. I promise you got a ton of people who agree with you.
It's the only way it's going to change.
But is it that bad? Is it that bad?
I guess it's because, you go through. I don't like the way they play baseball. That's
okay.
Probably what. Right? I'm not part of the new, probably age-based. That's okay. But I still spent a lot of money on the Giants through the years, so I feel like I have a right to say something. I don't like when we're going to be different than everybody else and we're smarter than everybody. I just don't like it. So did we still go to the Red Sox game because the kids still want to go? Sure. But, it's very painful because, they've been a love of 50 years, right? And your kids and your grandkids and spring training to just, and then you hear Greg Johnson with they're doing this and that. And it's like, oh my God, somebody help me not drive off the road. So just frustrating for so I appreciate the opportunity to vent.
Yeah.
Thanks,
hey, Mike, thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, that was a good call. Go ahead.
It's the only way it's going to change. Like, to me, that if you're rooting for your team to lose, it's because you don't like it and you want it to change, and you know that even 87 and 75 and the last wild card spot, if that's what it is going to be deemed a success, and those guys are both going to get extensions, and they may get them anyway, and that means 3 more years of operating the same way, and that to me offends the senses of a lot of people.
I get that totally. I guess the difference between a fan like Mike,
the 107.
Yeah,
Gabe got 2 more. Gabe got 2 more years. If
why
that had
wouldn't
been,
he?
but right. Well, of course.
And by the way, see, this is where I get tripped up. All I can do is speak for freaking me. This is where I get tripped up, because that 107 year, I was there talking it out with everybody every single night, and you all loved it. Bowl of cereal at midnight over the sink. You scooped it up with a soup spoon. Farhan was a G. You all loved it. So that's my question right now. What if the Giants go on a run and win 90 games? And they get into the playoffs and they make noise in the playoffs? Who knows what if they even win the whole thing? And you can call that ridiculous, but they were massive underdogs in 10, 12, and 14 when they entered the playoffs as well. I'm simply creating a scenario, not calling it likely or even possible for that matter. I'm interested in what's going on inside the brain of a Giants fan. What if they go on a run? Will you still hate the way they play? Or
probably
are you suddenly going to call for extensions for everybody, which is normally what happens when teams make the playoffs?
I don't think anybody's going to. If you feel that way, I don't think you're going to be calling for extensions. But
you sure?
But they will be. They would be warranted.
Everybody
that's the thing. I said
the extensions after 2021. Nobody blew one whistle. Not one.
Well, I wouldn't say nobody. I did say, hey, this could wind up hurting you because now you're tied to.
But were you against it? Everything could always wind up hurting you.
But what I'm saying is,
it hurt the Giants when they re-signed Brandon Belt and Brandon Crawford after World Series wins.
The extensions were earned. The extensions were earned.
Okay.
But if that means. If that season was a mirage, which it was, I think we can say that now, then they won 107 games. They won 2 out of every 3 games.
I still think this year is the most accurate portrayal of who they are, with 2021 being a steroided version of the positive and last year being a bit of an outlier to the negative. I think this is the most accurate portrayal of who they are. record-wise.
See, I think this team should be about 500, but they've had a few more of.
Yeah.
I think last year's team, they cooked the books, and that's the other thing. Like Farhan did this with the A's a lot of time. Like a lot of these A's teams.
What do you mean they cooked the books?
Like they wind up ended the year last year. They got hot when they were done. They got hot when it was done.
They were bad last year.
And it was all right.
It was a bad year.
But you also can come back and they're bad was 81. Like that was not an 81 win team last year. Well, that was a 74, 75 win team last year.
Then my response to that would be
the eye test.
But now you're telling me that 3 years in a row their record is better than who they actually are. And if you're saying it is completely fair for me to come back and say that is normally the calculus that gets people extensions and compliments. If they keep overachieving, then
they keep overachieving because the expectations keep being so low. I mean, that's the thing. Like they've done well when they if you had to say one generalized statement about the Giants in the Farhan Kapler era, we'll throw out the first year.
Yeah.
They've played their best when they've been left for dead and everybody hates everything about them.
I mean, I think that's
and not like in the way of.
But I think
they rally and they resist. What I'm saying is when Giants fans are like, I hate this team, I'm done with them.
That was upon arrival.
Then they get hot.
That was upon arrival.
It
was upon arrival.
But nothing. There hasn't been any real plan of theirs that's actually worked.
Well, that's not true. I mean, how can you say that after 2021? And I can give you
because they rolled the dice a bunch of times and it kept coming up.
But I give you a bunch of examples every day.
But that's not the plan. Like that.
No, but you would agree. I know this. You and I have had this conversation. If you take all of Farhan's moves in a bucket, and put there's a good bucket and a bad bucket, which bucket's more full?
I mean, the good ones
for sure.
The good ones, without a doubt. But part of it is he's in the middle bucket. He's not like his moves that don't work out are kind of insignificant because the moves that don't work out are mid to back end play. So I
don't disagree.
So they're not.
I don't disagree. Like I would love for the Giants to be playing with better, more electric players. A higher payroll. I would love all of those
There's
things.
a lot of nuance to this because,
no doubt.
you can make they deserve the extensions after 2021. I'm not saying they didn't. I said that at the time that they deserve the extensions. If they make the playoffs again, they're going to probably deserve them again in the context of the way sports works.
Well, see, that's why Mike's call was so interesting. If you're literally a Giants fan that's gotten to the point of rooting against them, because you want change, and that happens in sports.
It does happen with the Niners a lot.
Yeah, you hate what you see. So if you don't like a quarterback, I mean, let's be honest. There's going to be people rooting against Brock Purdy here in a couple of weeks. There's no doubt about it. Okay, so sometimes you root against your favorite thing because you want to see change. I guess my question is, how far does that go? What if they win? Are you upset? Are you upset at the winning if it happens? Let's say the rest of this year goes well. Are you bummed? Are you hoping that if they get to the playoffs, they lose when they get to the playoffs? And I guess my contention would be, I mean, if that's the scenario, then what are we doing here? Are you rooting? Do you hate the look of the Giants so much that you're rooting against their own success?
I would say, and I think everybody has to answer that individually.
Yeah, of course.
But broadly, I would say if you do feel that way, you think it's for the greater good. You think it's for because this, aside from them winning the World Series, which, look, the majority of fans, if this team gets on a run, the majority of fans are going to love it and live it and enjoy it. I mean, that's just reality. That's just what it will be.
Of course.
If they play Philly and beat Philly 2 out of 3, and then they play Atlanta, oh my God!
And the compliments will come flowing.
And it
always does. Right?
People will be in for it if it gets to that point. So that answers that question. But as far as the belief that, like, if you really believe that they're not going about it the right way, or you're bored to tears by the way it's been done, even though they've had a lot of success and mid-level success on, like then at the end of it, if you don't win the World Series, you're like, I don't want my 6 months to be this way every single year.
That's my question. Have we gone that far? That
I think for a lot of people, yes.
I think you're probably right. I wonder if a lot of you have gotten to the point. I certainly have not. I try to, right? I'm going to take every game as it comes. But I get it if these people, if this system, quote unquote, rubs you the wrong way. But have we reached a point where you are so turned off by it that even if it ends up working and even if they end up in the playoffs, you think that is a negative because you just don't even want to see this style, even if it works? That's next level.
Well, but
that's next level because I haven't seen that yet. 2021, we had plenty of people who didn't like what they were looking at. And then that team won them over. But look how quickly 2021 faded when you followed it up with a dud. And so now we're in this tweener thing that we're all doing this year. And people are angry at a team that's got one of the top 5 records in the National League.
Yeah, I think they're going to make it.
Which is
I still say that.
Which is mathematically bizarre, right? People in other cities would not understand what we're talking about right now. Why are y'all mad at your winning baseball team?
And sometimes that's where playing the percentages plays in terms of just be solid because there'll be enough teams in any given year that underachieve. And because I think part of the Giants' success, and look, they don't have to apologize for this, but part of the Giants' success this year is the fact that the Mets, Cardinals, and Padres have all whiffed.
No doubt.
Like those 3 teams.
No doubt.
Everybody would have thought, even if the Giants had the record that they do right now, that those 3 teams would be better.
However,
than them.
Correct. However, I think sometimes Farhan's unstated response would be, can you see that's why we're not doing it that way? Because it doesn't always work.
Here's where the Giants made a miscalculation, though. And I think this is at the ownership level.
Okay.
I think the Giants and the executive level above Farhan Zaidi and the front office. I think the Giants really believed that winning was going to be enough. Like I think they looked at the way Farhan goes about things and the A's ties and the Dodgers ties and hey, we want to be more like that. Like I think the Giants consciously said we want to be more like that because there were too many years, even where it just the floor was not like if they had even a decent floor, they probably could have, made the playoffs or stoked the fans fire a little bit more back. So I think they wanted that. If we win, even if it's 85 to 90 games every year, people are going to love that in this town. People are just going to, they want like this town, we can make Yaz into a guy. We can make Wilmer into a guy. We can make, I think they overestimated the ability to make middling players
I think
hugely popular and engaging to the fan base. I'm talking about 2 different things here.
Yeah, but I think you're completely right that, what a fascinating statement. I thought that they thought that winning would be enough.
Yes.
Well, who the hell wouldn't? What's the most famous phrase in sports? Winning cures everything. Why would winning not be enough? But I'm taking your comment at face value because I know for a lot of fans right now it's not.
It's not. No,
that's wild.
Well, here's the thing.
Think about that.
Think about this though. And you know this because you go to
not enough.
You know this because you're at the ballpark.
Yeah.
Who on the Giants gets the biggest ovation among
Brandon Crawford?
Exponentially.
Absolutely.
It's like 1,000 to
you can't even hear the claps for the other players.
Even
sounds like a minor league
Camilo
game.
Doval is an all-star coming in the 9th inning to finish off a win.
You got to do something about the entrance for Doval.
And it's like it feels like it's
I know
the 3rd inning.
Don't copy the Mets, but do something. That's got to be a party. That has to be a party.
And I'm not.
That's a quick aside.
I know it's a quick aside. I'm gonna know myself and not answer that because it'll be 5
o'clock.
No,
we got plenty. Yeah, we got plenty of time.
But it's Brandon Crawford.
It's Brandon Crawford. Yeah, it's not even close.
And Brandon,
he's hitting 202.
Part of me,
yeah, Brandon
Farhan's probably sitting back
I gotta get this guy out of the lineup.
If I could find somebody, he'd be the guy that would go. People that's
totally. We're presented by Fremont Bank, full service banking, no compromises. It only doesn't stand out right now because all of them are striking out.
He wanted Matthias playing instead. He wanted Camargo playing instead.
Matthias. All right.